UIC. Freedom the people of need. Hell yeah. Freedom the people of need. Yeah, yeah. Freedom the people of want. Freedom the people of need. Yeah, yeah. Freedom the people of want. Freedom the people of need. Yeah, yeah. Freedom the people of want. Freedom the people of need. Yeah, yeah. Real man a road. Now bow wolf in a tree grand a road. Now bow down to no demon a road. UIC when you see man a road, me say yeah. Real man a road. Now bow wolf in a tree grand a road. Now bow down to no demon a road. UIC when you see man a road. Ready fi broke every chain. That when you free up the people, levitate.
Welcome everyone to another episode of UIC Liberty TV. I am Chase Neal, General Secretary of the UIC and also Shadow Minister for Education and Human Development. All right, welcome to everyone who's joining us in the chat. I see Bruce Davis here. Good evening, Bruce. Lion, class is indeed in session, and we're here to teach, uplift, and change the life of the Jamaican people. All right, JMH, welcome. And we have Elliot, Poshan Elliot. All right, so we'll be getting right into it. For those of you who have joined us, we ask that you like right from now, like the live broadcast right now. That affects the algorithms, and share with those near and far so that they can see what's going on and learn from it. All right. Godfrey Neswok, welcome. All right. So, children killing children in school, UIC solution needed now. Now, for those of you who have read the Gleaner, you would have seen where our Prime Minister was saying after a presentation to the NWC that he would be coming back at those who try to paint a gloomy picture of Jamaica. But I want us to be grounded in reality. Although we have lots of things going for us, as I would have shown in our Independence Day video, things that Jamaicans have going for us, we still have a lot to work on. And these things that we have to work on do indeed paint a gloomy picture of Jamaica. So we would like to know which Jamaica the Prime Minister is living in. Now, just this week, we were hit with two recent concerning things. One is the abuse of a taximan by the police, and the other, which has torn our hearts as Jamaican, the fatal stabbing of a girl by another student at the Kingston Technical High School. Now, I want us to view these clips and tell me, do things not look gloomy for Jamaica? Join us back when we finished viewing these videos. All right, seems we have some technical difficulties here, so we will just move on until we can get those videos out. Now, for those of us who have seen the video, we saw where we don't know what took place before the incident, but for those of us who saw, we saw one young lady walking up to another, taking out her knife and stabbing repeatedly in the neck and head region. And then we heard the news that the child died. There is another part of the video going out where the young girl is bleeding to death, and while another student tries to save her life. All right, so we're going to run that video now, and we get back here after. All right, not seeing anything. Tell me in the chat, are you seeing the video? All right. Welcome, Mitzi Lawrence, Sonia Mignot, Randall Emmings, Deborah Williams. All right, great. Godfrey says no, so we just move on. So we have seen how our authorities react. We don't put plans to be proactive, we are reactive. And now that another killing has occurred in our schools, we see the Ministry of Education responding with certain measures. We see them coming with the idea of metal detectors in school to increase the student resource officers in schools. Student resource officers, by the way, are police officers who are placed in the schools to maintain discipline. This morning on a talk show, I heard them discussing engaging youth in uniformed groups to ensure that they are youth are engaged in something positive to diminish the chance of of violence in the schools. Now, we, the UIC, our education plan looks at putting in place those strategies to ensure that our children are protected. We are not of the mind to wait until something happens before we think of doing something about it. Now, what I want to show you now, and I hope this goes through. Seems we're having technical difficulties. Is the video of the Ministry of Education's response to the violence in schools. All right, so stand by. We're going to look at the ministry's response, and then we look at the UIC's plan. All right. So while that is being done, we're going to ask the members of the Youth Republic. They're in the waiting room to come and give their thoughts on the matter. So welcome to the show. Uh, oh, we have Nasir. Welcome, Nasir.
Good night, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well. I'm Nasir.
All right, great, Nasir. Is there somebody else with you? All right. So you have seen the video, Nasir, of this happening in the school. What are your thoughts on the incident?
Well, Mr. Neil, my thoughts are this. I believe our young children are misled by three factors, right? Location,
Mhm.
normalization, and desensitization. Simply being, in Jamaica, the norm is one must be a bad man, one must be able to protect the family or protect themselves in any time or situation, right? And this sense of badness
Yes.
now is desensitized, even through movies, even through our music. Not saying music is the problem, it is not. But it is desensitized to an extent where we, the younger heads, are comfortable with it. We can say things like we're going to slap out a boy head or something like that, quote and unquote lyrics, for example. And this is normalized throughout every stage of society. Now, when this happens, when these three factors collide, and per se we're in a more rural setting, now we feel this more than, how should I say, other persons of the public. For example, a specific group of middle class persons compared to a lesser class person, right? No, this school,
Yeah.
and in fact, I actually brought a past student from Kingston Technical here with me tonight. His name is Mr. Sutherland, and I hope he gets to give his thought from a person that's been a past graduate of the school. Yes, I came very prepared tonight. So, as I was saying, this school is situated
All
specifically
right,
between
great.
two gang, right? This school is a rural school. It's situated between two gang
Yeah.
regions. Once I walk through there, and there's gang tattoo signs, not tattoo, spray painted all over the school's regions, right? So looking at that now, one can assume that this school has been drenched and normalized in violence to some extent. So it's nothing new to see children actually aiming to kill each other because, as I stated before, desensitization, normalization, and location, right? But the thing is now, and if Mr. Solon can join me in a bit, could you join me, Mr. Solon, please? And the thing is now, once our students feel the need to protect themselves with knives or guns or any form of weapon, you know that the system has failed us, right? Because as Jamaicans, as citizens, as students, we shouldn't be looking to protect ourselves with such severe methods to kill our next innocent. Are you hearing me, Mr. Neil?
Let me
So,
just jump in. Chase, let me just jump in a
do
second
you
here.
think that what happened in that video, or are you speaking really? Do you think what happened in that video, with the girl stabbing the other was um, the attacker protecting herself, or you think that she might
The
have had a
attacker
weapon
protecting herself?
to protect herself?
All right. It comes back again to what I was saying.
Or the
Well, hello?
hmm.
Oh, you're waiting for me to finish my echo? Yes, I'm here. I'm here.
Oh, I'm hearing you. Yes, go ahead, Nasir.
All right. So after watching the video, right, the attacker, because if you were watching, you saw somebody parted them, then she swerved around, right, to stab the female in her neck and head. I think 3 times consecutively. In those moments, she was determined to take that child's life, right? So in that moment, everybody has a certain thought, and I think Mr. Peterson can confirm, and you, Mr. Neil, working with children, everybody has a thought. It's either you look and you see that I can do this action and the consequences will be imprisonment, or I can stop here, walk away. The attacker had all means to kill that girl. She aimed for the neck and head. She aimed deliberately for the neck and head. Which child, female even, would aim for a neck and head with a knife? That is literally gruesome, premeditated. So
And
even
and,
if it
and,
was in self-defense, mm-hmm. Yes, you're saying?
you're suggesting that this is caused by location, and as an example,
Yes,
you said the school is located right where there are rival gangs, and desensitization,
yes,
and you speak of them being used to this violence.
yes.
All right. There was another point you made.
Desensitization, location,
All right. So
normalization, and desensitization.
normalizing. So these factors, in your view, contribute to not feeling, and in this case, the young lady not feeling much any at doing what she did.
Could you repeat that, please? I'm having a bit of
All
connection
right.
issue
So
on my
you
end. Could
said
you repeat that?
location, normalization. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
so then,
And
what I'll do then,
desensitization.
Nasir, is just restate what you said, for the audience, and you can come in anytime that you want to give any additional thought to it. So, Nasir suggesting that our youth have become used to violence, that it is now a normal part of our society, and because of that, they have been desensitized. And what would have added to that, this school in question is located where there's violence because there are rival gangs right there. Do we have any thoughts? There's someone else in the room. Do you have audio connection? All right. So I am told that the videos, the video is ready now, and someone asked if there's a videoing of the incident. Everyone has seen it. So we're going to go for that now. So um, let us see that stabbing incident. Grab onto your chair if you have not seen it, and yes, it is not very pretty. Oh, still having your problems. All right, so we just go into it. All right, now this stabbing incident is one of the symptoms of Jamaica's issues. UIC's
Chase, can you hear me?
on
Uh,
our education plan, the learning program.
Chase, can you hear me?
Oh,
Can you hear
yes,
me?
yes, I'm going to ask Mr. Patterson. No,
Sorry, you're breaking up a lot. Can you hear me clearly?
to in. Hear you loud and clear.
Okay, you're breaking up. I wanted to just verify who we have on. I know we have Nasir on, but there's somebody else here that we need to clarify who it
Uh,
is. Could you identify yourself?
I'm
Who
going
is
to.
it? Right. Who's the other person who's on? Can you identify yourself? There are a few persons here, and we just want to know who is who because there are no names beside them. So, could you identify yourself? We've put you on screen. You're live. Could you open your mic and say something? Otherwise, we're going to have to remove you because we do need to know. Okay, so that is Mr. Harper. All right. So, Mr. Harper, no name. All right. So, take you off. Who's the other person? Who's the next person? Who's this person here? Turn on your microphone so we can know who you are. All right, so that person is gone. All right, so it's just Nasir and the two of us that are here. I know Rashid wants to join us, or Rashid. Oh, here's Rashid down here. Here we go. Hey, Rashid, how you doing? Ah,
I've been backstage for like the entire time trying to signal to somebody, but no one
sorry for the
was.
punishment. I thought you were unnamed in one of those buckets. I was
Oh
trying
no, I
to.
was backstage the entire
So
time.
no problem. Welcome and good to have you on.
Yeah, thank you.
Um, so Ned has somebody in the background that he wants to speak to us. Somebody who was on location at the school or a past student. Nasir, is that correct? Nasir, unmute your mic
Yes,
and let us.
he
Okay,
is a past student.
all right. And by the way, I'm a past teacher of Kingston Technical. I taught math, engineering, science, and physics a few years back at that school. So I'm quite familiar with the school and the environment. Okay, go ahead, Nasir.
All right, one moment, please. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Just a quick second here. Uh, all right, yeah. So, yeah, I have been a past. Well, I was a past student of the school, and basically the whole killing it didn't come as a surprise.
Can you just
Like,
introduce yourself for us? Tell us your name and maybe where you are, like which community or which parish or.
oh yeah, name it's Tyshawn Sutherland. Right now, I'm in St. Mary. Yeah, I'm in
So you're where?
Sunside. Right? Yeah, I'm in Sunside, St. Mary right now.
All right, go ahead. Tell us your what are your thoughts on the subject?
All right, yeah. In regards to the whole stabbing incident, like it didn't come as a shock at first because being at this school, I was a student there for what 2, 3 years, and it's somewhat off the norm because the school it's located in between like various volatile community. Like you have Poilas, have South, Vineyard Town is a bit up the road, and even at school once there were like shots fired, and me being new to the school to the environment, I was like, yo, did you guys not hear that? And they were like, hey, it's the norm, it happens a lot. And even at the school, like weekly you have police officers that come on the school to do searches, and every time they come they leave with like a lot of weapons, which it
Mm,
always it's shocking because you have security guards at the gate. Like you have to get searched. Like they search literally everything that you have before you can enter the school. And even
mm-hmm,
with that going on, for police officers to come to the school and still be able
mm-hmm.
to find weapons, that it's shocking.
Right. Okay. Let me hear from Rashid now. Rashid, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yes, on the whole stabbing matter, it's really a kind of a summary of like an entire bad situation in my opinion, because everything about the situation is bad, and then the problem is to correct the situation is just something that shouldn't have been in the first place. For example, the whole situation of weapons being brought into school, the common solution for that is to up security, add police officers on the campus or something of that sort. And then here's the problem: where do we draw the line from it going to an institution of education into a prison? Because if we have securities watching children's every move, watching them and stalking them, basically trying to see that they don't stab another student, when does it stop being an institution and starts becoming a prison? A prison where someone can't be free and have fun, because we don't know. Suppose someone is play fighting or having fun with each other. Police is going to break that up because they're going to think it's a fight, which is their right. They should do that because we don't know what can happen. And that's the disgusting thing too. Because when you watch the video, you can't even see the weapon at first glance. So it's a concealed weapon that someone went into that fight with the intention of killing another student and walked off like it was nothing, like it didn't
Mm-hmm,
phase them, that like they didn't even feel some sort of regret in that matter. And that's just something horrific, that you can take another child's life at such a young age and walk it off like it's just a brush on the shoulder. I
mm-hmm,
didn't even realize a stabbing occurred until I saw the blood on the other student's shirt. I didn't know who got stabbed in that matter.
mm-hmm,
And it's just such a horrific scene, because the fact that you can go to school, going to a fight, and your first intention to lock on into that fight is to kill the opposition,
mm-hmm,
not resolve it in a talk, not resolve it with a teacher, not resolve it with anybody, with your peers, with anybody, your parents. There's so many other options than killing the person.
mm-hmm,
And then that's the thing, it's a normality. It becomes a situation that even if you don't kill the person, somehow you're the bad person in the fight. You don't win. You lose the fight, you lost reputation, and then you feel like you need to get back. You win the fight, that person is going to go to their friends and carry 10 people come to beat you alone up. There's no
Mhm.
winning situation, and that's what no one is getting.
Mhm.
But then it all comes back down to this person, and that person. Who educates who? The train of thought is all a snowball effect, a domino effect, and it
Is it
starts at home.
is it a case where children live what they learn? So these children
Yes.
are just living out what they're learning. So from the community that they live in, to the society that they live in, to the home that they live in, to the form of movies and entertainment that they enjoy, all of that is just coming out in, and they have no filter. Somehow their education isn't creating a filter for them to be able to say, okay, let me size up this situation here. um, to go to school with a knife means you have intent. You intend to defend yourself from somebody who you think might also have a knife. So you're going there because you feel you need to have this on you. Where does the child learn this? Why does the child feel so insecure? Why does the child feel, he or she needs to carry a knife to school? Normally, when we have fight in school, it's just with our fist. I thump you, you thump me, and we roll and dirty up our clothes, and then it's over. And then we're dragged off to the principal's office and so on. But now it means this student felt, I need to go to school armed because somehow that's the only way I'm going to be able to defend myself. And obviously she defended herself as best as she thought, but now there are consequences, which I'm not sure if she probably thought through the consequences of those actions, which
It
means,
seemed like it was an in the moment action, actually.
yeah,
That's the thing.
but it's also premeditated as well because she planned and carried a concealed weapon, so
Right.
she's planning
Mr.
to
Patterson,
defend herself. Yes, let's hear.
if I may,
Uh-huh.
I believe she fully understands the whole veracity of the consequences because I saw hesitation when she was walking because the video was filmed from, I believe, the right handle. She had the knife in the right hand and she went on the left side and hold her and stab her in her head, right? And her neck.
Yeah. Hmm.
Within the moments of that, each Homo sapien has a biological flash. It's just like they say the moment before you die, your life flash before your eyes.
Hmm.
We consciously go through all of this. The consequences. What will happen if I do this action? What will result from it, right?
Hmm.
So it's not a situation where you're going to say then this child is a child, so they didn't know what they're doing. Anybody who takes up a knife and is willing to plunge it in the next human being fully understands what they're doing. But
Hmm.
they probably think that they're gonna get away because of various loopholes in the law.
Hmm.
From
Well,
my
I don't.
perspective, as
Yeah.
dealing with children my age, younger and older.
Right. So maybe though, maybe I mean,
Yeah, you can
I've
speak. You can
lis-
speak.
I've listened to a number of young people speak, and I can sense most time when they're speaking a high degree of ignorance. So they may not fully understand the consequences. They may not be watching the news the way you and I do. They may not be paying attention to all of the steps. But what occurs to me is that the child stabbed in the neck. She went straight for the neck and for the head. So she wasn't, it's not like, you could see when a person is stabbing and they're just kind of cutting or whatever, they're not really being very specific. She appeared to be very, very specific, very straight, very calculating. I'm going right for this here. I kind of know what I'm going to do here with this person. Isn't that what you saw, Rashid?
Yes, I actually saw that bright as day. Actually, it wasn't any panic attack. Actually, it wasn't like a slashing, like she was trying to find something to hit, or she was just swinging her arms just to hit something, like you normally would see in a fist fight. They just swing
Yeah.
and hope to hit something. It was a direct attack. She went
Hmm.
for it, and just to take someone's life like that and then just walk it off.
Hmm.
It's really, and as the Nazir also said, I do believe she did know what was going to happen and what would have happened.
Hmm.
So I don't
Is it
think it's
is
a
it
kind of
is it that
case.
could it be that the killer was at a stressful point in her life? We don't know the details. Could it be though? From what I'm seeing in Jamaica right now, there's so many stresses. We just came out of the pandemic situation. Many homes are severely challenged economically. Many homes may be having severe, what do you call it now, aggressive moments inside the home, between mother and daughter, father and daughter, the entire family mix. In the community that the school is situated, I have lived in that community, and every day there is a form of altercation. Every single day, there are persons who are aggressively fighting. In fact, right now, in that community, Wildman Street, Anova Street, Beeston Street, right now in that community, there are aggressive gang warfare right at this moment as we speak. The police presence is very high in that area. Almost every day, somebody's being killed in that community because they're from one side or the other. This is steep in the history of the political violence that has crippled those inner city communities where gangs and garrisons were created. So we're seeing right now the working out of a number of factors, which has affected the home, obviously, affected the community, obviously, affected the school, and is affecting the society at large. Because now, as a parent, every parent is wondering, can I send my child to school and be confident they're going to come back home alive? Isn't that what your parents are talking about now, Rashid?
Yes, that's actually what my mom also brought to me after this. I actually found out about this having through her. We were having a conversation one evening and she brought it up. And then it's kind of hurtful to kind of see that that's something that you have to say to your child, to
Mm,
not go in any altercation. If somebody asks you for this, just give it to them because it's better than losing your life. And that's something that shouldn't even be a thing. You can't even be on the road with your
mhm.
own phone.
Yeah, yeah. You have to be
You can't
afraid
be on the road with
afraid
your
of
own
carrying a
phone.
phone. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Now,
risky using your own phone.
yeah. Nasir. One of the things I heard, by the way, as I was following the story, I heard one young lady describing how she tried to help the girl. Now, this young lady was very distraught. She was not a friend of the girl, but she knew her. She said the girl was fairly friendly. She had a lot of friends. She was not somebody who gets into problems with people normally. This is the girl that has died. So when she was stabbed, this girl went in and tried to help her, tried to apply pressure, and tried to help out. This girl sat in the back of the vehicle with her as they transported her to the hospital. The nurse, the school nurse, was in the front of the car, the girl said. And then the driver was one of the other teachers. I think the guidance counselor or something like that was driving. And the girl, this young girl, who is younger than the victim, she said one thing she noticed is that the nurse for the school was behaving as unprepared and unskilled as the other students were. Most people didn't know what to do. They were just saying, somebody help her, somebody do something. And the nurse was similarly not really able to help. And this young girl who doesn't know anything about helping a victim who has been stabbed was doing her best trying to help out. And she said before they got to the hospital, public hospital, she heard the girl gasp her last breath and she knew that she was already gone. And she said when they took her out of the vehicle to bring her in, they all knew she was already gone, but they just went anyway and just went through the process. By that point, they were quite numb. Nasir, do you think our school are prepared to provide the level of attention to students, to provide a level of guidance and a level of help in those situations that would either increase the chances of success or the child not dying? From your time at Kingston Technical, do you sense the school itself being prepared to deal with the challenges that you're faced with in terms of discipline and children fighting and the possible outcome that we've seen today?
Well, Mr. Patterson, no, I don't believe it because I think you touched on an amazing point there, which comes back to mental health, right? Hear me out. Around CXC time, students are under pressure, right?
Yes.
Now, if we look into the future and look into, for example, certain trends around the media where they're saying there's no future for school graduates with just CXCs or even degrees, because you can go on the line, make three dials, earn 3,000 US, which is like 530, depending on the rate, 532,000, for example. So school is irrelevant. Now,
Mhm.
students feel that pressure, including with the violence in the area around them, the police presence. So they're confused. They don't know
Mhm.
what to do. They don't know how to release this stress. And in
Mhm.
times of old, used to have what, youth groups,
Mhm.
programs to help students. Those are not helping anymore, because the the impact of society on social media has really and truthfully controlled the youth, right?
Mhm.
So when the youth see that there's no future for them, there's no future for them. That's what they're assuming. There's no
Nasir,
ample.
Nasir,
Yes,
you have hit the nail on the head, with the biggest and fattest hammer ever. I
thank you,
believe
sir.
more than anything else, is the lack of hope. It's that hopelessness, that lack of, what is the point? Why am I going to school when
Exactly.
I see people who have dropped out and have become choppers, and they're making far more money than the teacher who is in front of me telling me that I need to study and pass my exams in order to be somebody. You see your teacher struggling. You see on the news where your teachers are being disregarded, their paychecks
Underpaid
are low,
and
they're trying to
undervalued.
migrate. You see where your mother and father, they may have done well in school, they may have gotten their 7 or 8 or 10 CXC back in the days, they may have gotten their job in the bank or wherever, and you see them
Hmm.
struggling, and you see your friend's dad and your friend's mom, and you're not seeing any hope for yourself. And you put it nicely, passing your CXC is not a guarantee of getting much out of life. And so I think that is a big factor. What do you say to that, Rashid?
Honestly, I do say the same. There's no hope for like a bigger career going on right about now, because which is kind of a sad thing that is not really only Jamaica, it's kind of like a world basis. You passing your subjects, you getting the highest distinction in whatever you're going towards, that achievement, it's just that, an achievement. It really,
Mhm.
it doesn't guarantee you a spot in the big world, and that's kind of sad because half of the things in the world actually is run by links.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
if you have the highest achievement, and then the guy who's at the top head of the table says that, oh, I know this guy from primary school, but he doesn't know anything, he's getting in before you.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it's just a fight for that. And then students or children or young people on a whole, some of them might see that trend and just go off to other means of getting money that they feel that is fit and that
Mhm.
is well logical in a way to guarantee them money, which is
Mhm.
then it brings around to the whole idea of scamming,
Mhm.
um basically all the things that criminals stuff, they think that that's a thing. And then it's also, it doesn't help that it's glorified with the
Mhm.
media, that you
Mhm.
have songs going around about scamming, songs going around about how much money they make doing
Mhm.
this, doing that. So then they listen to it and like, oh, so why me waste my time at school when I could just pick up a phone and put on an English accent and then talk to them? And then it's just
Yeah.
sad, everyone's looking for a shortcut. And
There's another thing that came to my mind as well, gentlemen, and this is something that is heavily overlooked in the Jamaican context. Do you know that many of our young girls, and I hate to say this, but many of our young girls suffer from sexual abuse in their communities and in their homes, that we don't even hear anything about it, right? It's just a quiet, a silent abuse that's going on. Um, where is Chase? Come on, Chase. Where are you? I'm not seeing you. But here it is. Oh, he's way at the bottom here. Why did you? Let me bring him back on here. Yeah, yeah. So one of the things. I mean, this is so important, but it's so overlooked. You might see a young lady coming to school every day, and she is going through the north. She looks like she's okay, but she's under a lot of stress and a lot of pressure at home. There's the economic pressure. Her mom can't make enough money to send her to school properly and timely. Then she might have Her mom might have a fellow who's not her dad, who is occasionally in the picture, and there's lots of stress at home. With being molested. Even her mom might know or don't know about it. Plus the economic challenge, she can't get enough money to go to school regularly, or to have money to pay bus fare and buy lunch. And then at the same time, what we just spoke about earlier on, the stresses of, okay, why am I doing this? When I finish all of this hard task of getting an education, am I going to end up like that person over there who graduated with 13 subjects and went to UE and graduated and now is working at a call center and is telling me that she never need more than her high school education without even a subject to do, whatever it is. So here are these stresses going on. Chase, what do you think? Is that something that we should be concerned about as a society?
I hope everyone is hearing me. My internet decided to be a beast. But what you are seeing is reality for many young persons, many young ladies. Um, they suffer more than we know, and my time as a teacher has shown me that our young ladies are fighting battles that we don't see, and the percentage of them who are abused is more than we know. It's me
Mhm.
are even aware of. It's staggering. I can tell you this, that almost all of the females at home, and I talk very closely with females, almost all of them I know have been abused.
Yeah,
It
that's
is
my
it
that's my
is
knowledge as well.
something
Yeah,
that weighs. Yes, almost all
and
of
it's,
them.
I mean,
Is
in and in
the
this the thing is, in this environment, it's been going on for years enough, for years and years, but now the environment has become even more toxic, and this young lady and others may feel the need to become more drastic in seeking to defend themselves, and it leads to what we're seeing here. Nasir, what are your thoughts on that?
Whoa, this is a very touching topic, honestly. And as a youth that just graduated high school a few years ago, went to university, and actually seen the road, I've seen a lot of girls who have gotten abuse and even use that abuse as a point to say they're well desired by their abusers. They
Hmm.
use societal standards and say, all right, if I'm not doing this, nobody know want me. That means that I'm not worth anything. So they, how should I say, value their self worth on how many men pursue them a day, and how
Hmm.
men, I've even seen this in high school. Females let the top boy in the school touch them inappropriately in dark classrooms just because they want to be crowned as the top girl. And when you hear these females' mother come and talk, they say like they've grown them so good, good church girl. But the truth about it is these females are insecure from the get-go. They
Hmm.
don't understand what the concept of actual love and value is. So their value is as close to the ground as the water is to the sand.
Yeah, yeah. No, this is serious. Chase, do you have any other thoughts though that you wanted to raise on the subject matter?
I see an interconnecting thread between the violence in schools, violence in society, and our young ladies trying to find their identity. Um, I actually did some research before I came on this evening, and we see whenever in these journals that I read, it is shown that whenever you do not have an affiliation to something meaningful, when people do not feel accepted or a part of something, then they seek destructive ways in which to realize themselves or to be seen. So we see, especially in our young men are not taught to accept themselves, and they're not to accept their emotions. Just the other day, I saw a young boy riding a bicycle and he fell off. His father was chastising him. If you're rough, we
Yeah.
deny our young the chance to validate their emotions, and so we deny them the chance to validate themselves. So, how does a young man know prove himself to be someone by living up to an ideal that is seen as good? And in our case, roughness is the thing for a man to be. So, if somebody violates you, you're gonna mash him down because why? this is ideal, and you are appreciated for who you are. You are not connected to something worthy, so you find that connection that you think will be respected. And the girls do the same. We idolize sexuality. Our songs, just turn on a dancehall song. Majority of the my parents that call boogie and slapness. But the sexuality, the eroticism, that is what we treasure in women. And if women are not a picture of something to be lusted after, then there's some value for us. That is what we teach them.
Hmm. Let me. Mhm.
And this society, if somebody hate you, weak. If a girl not sexy, then as valuable as the other girl.
Mhm. So let me
We need
hear
to
Trace.
develop ways and show our ways to be valued.
So I
Yes, sir.
want to hear now from Rashid and Nasir on this one. Based on what Mr. Neil just said, I'm seeing violence as a normal part of our society. And I think, Nasir, you mentioned this earlier on, the normalization of violence, I believe, is what you're indicating. So our society is probably built on violence. If you look back at the history of Jamaica throughout its political design, the way we govern ourselves, the way we run our schools, the way we parent our children, do you see a thread of violence through our society normally, and that we might have normalized this over the years, and it has now built up to this crucial point or breaking point? What are your thoughts? Let me hear first from Rashid and then Nasir.
Yes, I do agree with it. With the idea that society kind of instructs you to act upon violence half of the time, because what is actually the sad part is that as a child you're groomed to think that your value and worth as a man is to be as tough and strong as possible, that you should be able to beat up a next man if a next man tries something with you. That's how your worth and value comes to you. That's how you feel as a person. That's your central figure. And then because of that worth and value that you feel that you need to act upon violence, that's what kicks in. Because it's not you're not the only person who that was indoctrinated upon. This man taught his son, another man teach him son, another man teach him son. So it all comes to down to the battle of will. To a battle of who value themselves more in this indoctrination that society has placed on us. So is if this man can thump this man harder, that man can thump that man harder, and whoever punches who harder is the person that's worth more or valued more in society, because you're the tougher man, you're the big dog, you're the top dog, and that's just where the whole violence thing kicks in. So it's all
Mhm.
just him going against him. It's all people versus people, which is the sad thing. It's
Yes,
us
yes.
versus us, and it's a cycle that we need to break.
A cycle of violence. And Nasir, what are your thoughts about this in terms of the what
Whoa. First,
go
I
ahead.
have to say, good point, Rashid. Good point. Amazing. And I'm just gonna quote Mr. Williams here. Being a strong man doesn't mean you have to be violent, ignorant, or that provided he or she said. And next phrase I would like to make is music soothes the savage beast. I remember I watching an interview with Ninja Man and a famous female reporter back on when she was hosting. I believe it was, I don't remember the name of the program, but it was held on TVJ back in those days. Ninja Man
Hmm.
said he was the first man who sing about Take Up 45 and Draco. We call it Draco now, but it was a next name back then, right? No, speaking from when the political, scientifically speaking and approaching, when the political violence started in the 80s, only thing we Jamaicans had to shelter us to that reign of violence was music. Note, I'm not insinuating or suggesting that music has aided to the violent situation in Jamaica. What I'm saying is this: at some point through the generational change or rift, the next generation lost the, how should I say, that music was just music in of itself and started to take music into a realistic situation. from when
Mm.
we are trying to provide for our family to when they omit that part totally and just focus totally on the guns and violence and protecting themselves. Now, in this
Mhm.
society, in this day and age, where norms are kind of wobbly, we're not even sure who are men and who are women again. So, with this age
Mhm.
of confusion with this new generation, it comes back down to it now. If a man cannot provide for himself or protect his family, his self worth is he is not worth it. This is the main narrative that is being pushed. So if I, as a man, cannot defend my family or myself, I am not worth it. So if
Mhm.
a man per se rush me and I can't defend myself with fists or gun or nothing, I'm not worth it. No female will look at me as that man. I won't get the respect from my elders or the youths in my community. So when it comes back down to it,
Mhm.
I believe there is multiple factors that adds to this violent situation. But what is definitive enough? Self-worth as a
Mhm.
male, because as I said before, being a man does not mean you're ignorant or you're
Mhm.
overly aggravating.
Yes.
Being a man simply means this: you're able to look into yourself and understand who you are. You are not lost to the social indifference, and you're able to lead yourself, because to make a change in the world that you want, you have to start with yourself.
Mhm.
So when it comes back down to that violence, I believe it's the lost
Could I
boys of
oh,
yesterday. Yes, Mr. Neil. Oh, good night, Mr. Neil, my mentor.
um, night was here. Um, for Stevens asked a question. Why do we never talk about the molestation of young boys? Which which is ironical because it shows that really nobody really is about man. We really lower attention to females, the fear of sex. I remember when flying from downtown Kingston to Mandeville for our all island tour in Mandeville. The bus that I went into was almost full, and I went to the front seat, and the driver run me out. I didn't even remember about this thing in Kingston. Man must travel in front seat because of woman alone must travel there. So we see where men look out for men, women look out for women, but we don't have anybody looking out for the men. So Jamaican men are not connected. We don't feel connected to anything, and so we build our macho image. But what to be to take note of is the what should I call it? The projecting of that macho image now. Women, where we see men calling women bro, our girlfriend they refer to as bro, and the girls even be dressed feminine start talk like man too. So now this male image is not only being portrayed men, but we see females coming in with it more. Even if they identify as female, they still portray masculine tendencies, and we see the violence now rising amongst the female population, where just like man, them have to prove and look at this because gun girl and all of that.
Mhm.
So the men are being marginalized because men don't have the same worth as women, but men are now being marginalized even more because women are taking on the role of men, not only in the workplace and even behavior wise, while still retaining value than the actual men.
Hello, is everything all right? Rashid, are you there?
Yes. I am.
All right, amazing, amazing. It seems Mr. Pattison and Mr. Neil is
Yeah.
having a bit of internet problems. We do apologize for that, viewers. But coming again, I think where Mr. Neil was, speak. Oh, he's back. All right.
Oh, can everyone hear me?
Yes,
Yes. We can hear.
sir.
I think. All right, internet problems. I'm sorry about that. All right. Mr. Patterson is back too.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Yeah, I
Um,
got eaten up as well by the internet. Chase, did you finish your point on the men molestation issue?
I think I did. I'm not sure what was heard though.
I mean, I heard a lot of it, but I just wanted, but the I
Heard
wanted to
everything.
just say to the writer who wrote earlier on about leaving out the men that I'm sure that there are molestation of our young boys as well, especially as we move into an era where all the stuff that Chase has described, getting that feedback again. Uh, yeah. But what I'd like to do now, though, if you don't mind, I'd like us to move now into solutions. Are you ready for that? Ready for solutions?
Solutions.
Yes. Are we ready
Yes.
for
Full
solutions?
time.
Yes,
Full time.
sir.
Yes.
Good. Now,
Let's go.
us to build, in order for us to build solutions, we need to make sure we fully understand the problem. So I'm going to take all of what you have just said and distill it into four key areas where I'm going to show the linkage in all four, and then we're going to go to Chase, who's going to tell us the best solution for this. So the first part of what I want you to look at is this connection here. Now, Jamaica has a very violent system of governance. When you study it carefully, you'll see that violence doesn't mean just fist fighting. Violence means the use of force and the use of fraud for anyone to get their way in life. Using force or fraud. Now, from slavery to our colonial masters to our violent partisan political model, to the preferred methods that our government use, has led to a very violent way of us trying to get things done in our country. Now, this violent model of governance has led to corruption, a lot of corruption. Now, this corruption leads to the stealing of money that should have gone into certain areas. This creates overtaxation, which burdens low income families. It results in us having bad infrastructure, poor public services, ineffective policing, unjust justice system, which leads to a distrust of the police and a distrust of the justice system by the masses, bad education policies, failing schools, bad economic conditions, which lead to stressed out parents, which results in lack of parenting skills because of the poor education, and little or no time for families to pay attention to developing the family, the core family. This then results in a very antisocial uh, community in many instances. Even if you live in a rich community, everybody is kind of like on their guard again, from each other. Uh, so you have that antisocial way of living that has developed in the society, and then it's characterized by high crime and violence as a result. And this is stemming from, in most instances, a lack of a sense of purpose, a sense of mission, the feeling hopeless, feeling as if you cannot do well by just being a normal, peaceful, hardworking citizen. You have to struggle, you have to hustle, you have to fight to eke out a space for yourself. So a lot of anxiety develops and depression develops, which overtakes both parents and children alike as they seek to cope with this environment. Now, before I go to point number two, how do you feel about that? Does that capture for you the essence of what we've been talking about and what you're seeing? Nasir, let's go with you first. 1 minute.
Who wants to
Does
go
that
first?
capture?
So I
Oh,
guess
You said Mr. Neil was going to go first?
No, Mr. Neil is going to come in with the
No,
solution
man,
part.
you.
Let me hear you, Nasir. Go ahead.
Okay, I believe what you said just now captured everything in its core essence. Yes. But I have one key point to make.
Hmm.
Justice system with the police, I believe it's a vice versa situation because I have a lot of friends who I've probed in I have a friend who actually just graduated from military school and some who are veterans in the business. And I
Hmm.
probed them and asked them, why is the police seen so violent, or why do they think they need to be so violent per se? Right, Mr.
Hmm.
Patterson? They're
Yes.
saying that first exact for a easier explanation, I'll give you this quote, a proverb. Prevention is
Hmm.
better than cure, they say. So they
Hmm.
rather defend themselves than let their mothers cry over their graves or their daughters or sons. Now, when
Hmm.
you look at it from that angle, you can't really say the police are bad, but you can say the police can do it more, serve and protect from that angle.
Understood. Understood. Very good point. And remember, the police does not exist in isolation. The police is a part of a system. And so
Yes,
if
sir.
the system doesn't create the atmosphere for the police to work effectively, and if the policies that we have, if the laws that we have, the policies and how we implement those laws and policies are not right, then the police finds himself in a very difficult position and he responds to that. So systems bring out the best or the worst in people. But Rashid, what are your thoughts on what I've said earlier on the overall context of the problem?
Yes, I also agree heavily with Nasir with that the police aren't all bad in the sense that they are really protecting themselves. They're really looking out for their own backs, which is something we can't blame. But it's all
Mhm.
about implementation. It's about which position you have and what your position entails you to do. You're in a
Mhm.
position where you serve and protect. You're serve and protect. You are the protector. You shouldn't
Mhm.
be the one that is the first one to run out because you're trying to save your own life. So I guess it's a situation. But as regards for the summary, I think it perfectly encapsulates everything that we have said in a
now,
short summary. And it's not.
now, if you notice, you said the police is supposed to serve and protect, which is quite right. There's a third element to the police which they don't normally carry in their language, and the UIC wants to embed this in the thought process. You're not only there to serve and protect, you're also there to respect. So the third element, serve, protect, and respect. And if you respect the rights of others, if you respect the people you're serving, then your attitude will be different. But I can tell you this: the police, like the politician, has no respect for the mass of Jamaican people. The politician respects those with money, the police respect those who have power over them, and that's about it. So the little man in the street who has no power over the police, it's an opportunity for the police to laud his power over them, because he's in power and he's suffering under those above him, and those below him must suffer because now he's in command. Now I want to go to the second element, which is very related to the first. So the first one was about the governance model and the domino effects of that governance model impacting all the way down to the parent and the child. The second element I want to look at is the element of violent homes. So we talked about violent governance model and what it does. One of the things it does is to create violent homes as a result of the history of violent politics, violent governance, violent parenting, violent schooling, where the recent elimination of corporal punishment as a tool of disciplining has only opened up a deeper void. So what we had before, or what we had up to the point of them removing this important tool, which is a bad tool, but it served an important purpose. We have children, we have children being born to parents and who are in the homes of grandparents who are a part of this system, a very, very violent political system. Um, It's very different today than it was, say, in the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s. It has gotten to a point where it was so bad. But that violent political past, which is a key component of the violent governance model given to us by our colonial masters, also created violent parents out of violent schools, where parents used to teach their children by using violence, by using force, by beating them, as opposed to having other methods of disciplining that does not include being violent. And the school used to use beating as the way of disciplining as well. Now, when the system took away corporal punishment or beating from the teachers, it failed to teach them a different tool as to how to maintain discipline in the classroom, discipline in the school overall. So they've lost a tool, but they've not replaced it with a better tool. So taking away that tool from teachers and administrators without an appropriate revamping of the system of education to teach a different culture and new values and new norms has resulted in a confused school environment. The teacher doesn't know what they can or cannot do. So until we start capturing teachers on our cell phones and showing them behaving despicably, trying to cope with a bad situation, we've heard teachers which said on video they didn't know they were being recorded, that they will mash up your head, me will kill you. You think me and your mama or papa? And they have all kinds of very aggressive tones. That's what replaced the beating. Before that, the beating would suffice. You used to have these aggressive teachers they looked forward, really, from what I could observe, to exercising their power of beating the student and so on. So while we have taken away some of those things out of the classroom, the physical beating, and while we have now caused teachers to become fearful because they were being recorded now on cell phones, and so they're now cornered. The teachers now are unsure what to do because all eyes are on them and they feel vulnerable. So what do? They stop being.
Answer to stop school shooting.
Sorry, what is that? Sorry, did I lose connection? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can
Can
hear you
you?
too.
Okay, I heard somebody else. I wasn't sure. So the point I'm trying to make here is this. The situation has changed over time, but the change has only resulted in the teacher becoming very vulnerable, afraid, and unsure of what to do and untrained in what to do. And the student is now empowered in a way that he was not empowered before. But this empowerment comes without him having the kind of education and guidance that he needs to put that power into perspective. And at the same time, the violent society around the school and the parent and the student remains the same. So at home, the parent is still being violent towards the child. The community is still being violent towards the child, but the teacher has lost their tool of violence against the child, and the child is now empowered in the school system without having the education that he needs to be able to deal with that empowerment, that empowered position he's in. And so it's going to result in more and more and more conflict between teachers and students, between students and students. And the teacher is no longer in a position to play that delicate role that parents often cannot play because they're not equipped to play it. Teachers used to be like parents to children. They used to parent. So you have good teachers used to be able to talk and guide and nurture students. Now they're afraid of doing that because even the parents would attack the teacher if that relationship doesn't go too well. So the teacher is out of their depth on the situation. The parents have not been upgraded. The parents don't have any more knowledge or ability than they had before. And the student is now in a confusing environment as to who is in charge here. Now, please let me know if I'm missing something. I'll start with Rashid. What are your thoughts on that?
I actually very fully agree with you because due to how society has kind of stripped down the teachers, basically their power and their status, it puts the teachers on kind of like a thin ice layer of some sort. Because on one end, if they were to act upon violence, violence, then the parents would step in, or the school would step in, or even down to the students would probably step
Mhm.
in at this point. And then if they were to nurture or whatever, and the student doesn't like that or something, the parents step in, then the school will step in, and then even more students probably step in. So they don't really have a way of life. And then upon that, you also have students or children who are grown up on violence in the society, who respond to violence. If you
Mhm.
want a child to listen to you, you have to slap him on the head. If you want a child to not do something, you have to show him and then slap his hand and tell him no.
Mhm.
So then when you strip the act of that whole beating thing from the teachers, you also strip it the power from them as well.
Mhm.
Because the teacher can only thing they can do now is yell or talk or whatever other way they probably try to find. But that student now knows that, oh, they can't hit me, so they can't do anything. And I was also a part of a class when I was younger when that rule was actually implemented.
Mhm.
When that whole "you can't slap children anymore" rule was implemented,
Mhm.
students actually took power with it. So students would actually do something on purpose and then say, "Oh, the teacher can't slap them; they're not gonna do nothing," and just had to stay with it. And then the teachers actually couldn't do anything because in that position, you just gave a child who was grown up on violence power over adults, adults
Mhm.
who were actually grown in society, seeing what happened and have knowledge of what's happening. So now the students have the power over the teachers. So then it
Mhm.
switches, and there's even actually a video showing this. There's a student, I don't recall what school, but it was a school with a dark blue kind of tunic. There
Mhm.
was a student right beside the teacher on the board while the teacher was trying to write notes, and the student just wiped the board in front of her
Mhm.
and then continuously did it and did it again while other students were in the class videoing and laughing, and that teacher just had to stay there. The teacher
Mhm.
couldn't do anything. If the teacher reported it to an official, she just the students going to sit in a detention room. The next day they do it again. Why? Because they were indoctrinated that violence is the way to stop them. If they
Mhm.
want something done, they have to get hit in the face for it. So
Mhm.
if somebody yell at them or tell them to sit in a corner, that doesn't work anymore.
Mhm.
And it's a case where I'm not trying to say that we should put back violence, but as you said, we should find a substitution. We should find
Mhm.
something that is equally powerful and not violent related or something that can critically harm a child.
And here's the problem. Here's the problem. I'm going to bring you in shortly, Neil. Here's the problem. Those who are trying to make policy, for one, they don't have the moral authority to make good policies, because if they were to make good policies, they'd have to change the policies that apply to themselves. And they love to use force. Their governance model is based on force. So when they took away the right of teachers to use force, it was a political decision. It wasn't a principled decision. You see the difference? So it wasn't because they now understand that you need to build a society that's based not on force, but on respect for people's rights. The rights of the teacher, the rights of the student, the rights of the parent, the rights of individuals to be sovereign individuals, and the responsibility of government to respect that sovereignty. But once government is not prepared to go that route, they're stuck with making policies that are incomplete and inconsistent, which then leads to more problems rather than solutions. But let me hear what Mr. Neil has to say before I go to point number three.
Uh, that's really point on point. We through millennia, even by our religion, Christianity teaches spirit and spoil the child. The fabric of our society, even in African society, before we were by Europe, as based on violence. Many African tribes, if you were to violate that term, you would have been sold into slavery, not chattel slavery though, but you would end up in wars or so forth. So the history of the world has been on force. who is more powerful, who better than
Mhm.
who, and it has resulted in a lot of heartbreak and hurt throughout the millennia, and we are now. And
Yes. So,
when the policymakers now remove this from teachers and substitute with nothing, then we have discern because society is actually based on violence.
mhm.
Yes,
Yeah,
so
and
that's my take.
I see where Annabelle Red is asking for the UIC solution, and we're getting there. We're getting there. The way the UIC does things, which is we I don't know why I'm getting this feedback. But the way the UIC does things, we don't just come out with policy and come out with announcements. We try to educate people first so you understand why we're doing something. Why are we proposing a different way? Where is it coming from? And we try to make sure we help you to understand the problem so then you can understand the solution. So the third point I want to make tonight as we drive towards the solution is that first, we talked about a violent governance model, which leads to a number of problems. Then we talk about violent homes, which is coming from all of that relationship, the history of violent politics, violent governance, violent parenting, violent schooling. And now I want to talk about violent children, right? So violent children are the result of our violent homes, violent communities, and violent governance model. A new value system is needed, and the UIC has just the right system that will bring this new value system in place. Politicians, parents, teachers, and students must be taught and groomed to appreciate a very, very simple idea, an idea which we in the UIC call the law of liberty. The law simply states that everyone has a right to do whatever they wish with their own lives, their own liberty, and their own property, provided they do not initiate force or fraud to take or infringe on the life, liberty, or property of others. This new mindset must permeate our government so that it will fully respect the sovereignty of every citizen and lead by example, not initiating force or fraud to get its way, and making sure it is unbiased in its punishing of anyone who tries to use the initiation of force or fraud to get their way. This is the beginning of the solution. If we do not begin, Rashid, with accepting that every person is a sovereign individual and that they have a right to their life, liberty, and property, and that each of them, in order to enjoy this right, must respect the life, liberty, and property of others and not use force or fraud to get their way in the process. This would mean the government would have to change its model and change its behavior, which would end up changing our school curriculum, changing the way our police does its work. They'll now become a police service, changing the way our teachers govern themselves. The teachers would have to respect the rights of students fully. They weren't respecting them before. Now they're going to have to respect the rights of students, and the students are being taught from basic school that they must respect the rights of their peers, the life, liberty, and property. In this process, they would learn that you may not agree with a person's choices, but you must respect the fact that they have the right to make those choices. Mr. Neil, what are your thoughts on that?
That's lovely. It is the only basis for a society that works. I don't necessarily have to agree with what you do, but I respect your right to as you think, as it, so it doesn't bother me or anyone else's rights.
Mhm. Absolutely. Rashid,
So,
what are your
am
thoughts?
I heard? Okay.
Yes, I heard you. Yes, I heard you. Were you finished,
Yes, I think
Sergey?
the whole
Mhm.
Yes.
I think the whole idea of human rights and everyone having their own individual rights over their body, their sovereign, I think that's a bit tricky because in nowadays the whole right situation is not bestowed upon the person or the individual that deserves it. It's bestowed upon the person in power over that individual. So it's a case where if you don't want something, the person who is in power over you says, "Oh, you have to do that. You just have to do it." So you don't have the right. The person in power over you and above you has the right. So
Mhm.
even down to parental or even in schools, even down to the most basic parental, I should even start there. If you as a child don't want to go somewhere, you don't have that option.
Mhm.
You don't have that option, whether or not it's educational, as if you just don't want to go, say you don't want to go outside and play with certain people or whatever. If your mother or father says they want you to go outside, you just have to go. You don't have any rights at that moment.
Mhm.
And then this transcends into school. If you don't want to take up certain courses or whatever the school says, you have to do it. If you don't
Mhm.
want to go to certain things, you don't want to buy certain items, you don't want to get certain equipment, you have to do it due to the school. This
Mhm.
transcends into adulthood. You come out of school and you want to, even down to COVID 19 is the perfect example. You don't
Mhm.
want to take the vaccine, you have to take the vaccine. Why? Because people in power is over your head, manipulating you, pulling strings, telling you that you're going to have to take it. They don't
Mhm.
outright say it, but they ban you from places if you don't take it. So
Mhm.
it's mine
Mhm.
as well. So sovereign rights isn't something that's bestowed upon the individual, but upon people in power. And until we solve something like that, then we can't really move on to a different situation where we help people to find different ways into respecting their own person and respecting others.
Well said, well said. And that is the whole point of the UIC as a movement. It is for us to get there. It is for us to build a governance model that respects the right of the individual. And to do that, you have to let the government and those in authority understand their role. The role of government, for example, is first and foremost to protect our individual rights. It's to ensure that you, Rashid, when you reach the age of majority as an adult, you get to choose what is right for you, so long as you do not use force or fraud to infringe on somebody else's life, liberty, or property. Now, that has not gotten through the heads of our politicians yet. They're still operating off the colonial master slave model, where they are the master and we are the slaves. And so they get to tell us that you must wear a mask, or you must take this injection, or you must do this, or you must do that. So they don't understand where to draw the line. They don't even understand that there is a line. And so the UIC wants to re educate us to find that line. And the line is, so long as the person's actions are not crossing over into infringing on somebody else's life, which is your most sacred property, or obstructing somebody else's freedom to do what they want with their lives and their property, or stealing or taking away somebody else's property, as long as you're not doing that, then your boundary of sovereignty is intact and you're leaving another person's boundary of sovereignty intact. Now let's work that out in terms of what would happen in the school system now. When a child misbehaves in a way that violates the rights of any other child in the school system, because of the teaching that they would have received from basic school throughout, they would immediately understand the connection between their actions and how it's infringing on somebody else's rights. They would learn now how to deal with conflicts, because the model of the school system, instead of being a transactional one where I prepare you to go get a job, simple, the system changes to one where the school is designed to prepare you to be the best possible person you can be. So you're going to learn about yourself, to understand your mind, understand your body, understand how to develop a good personality and character. Then you're also going to learn how humans behave, human behavior, so you can build relationships with family, with friends, in business, dealing with people that you come in contact with in your classroom, in on your way to school. when you get into the world of work, just learning how to deal with people. And then thirdly, you learn a very important set of information concerning economy. Everybody has to engage in the economy, so it's very important you understand how money works, so you can understand, instead of you just making decisions daily with the ignorance of how the monetary system works. Now you're going to make it with a full understanding of the history of money, the science of money, and you can make good decision. Conflicts now come down because you understand people, you understand the economy in which you're operating in. It's a free market economy, or it should be. What's a free market economy? Voluntary trade. You and I trade when we both agree that we mutually benefit from doing this thing. It's not forced trade. It's not government saying, no, you can only buy this, or you can only buy that, or you can only use this. No, it's you using your own mental faculties to make that decision. So when you have a school system which moves away from you just learning factory skills, so to speak, how to fit into one of the various old factories that we have. You're learning now how to be a human being, how to be a person, how to relate to other people, and most importantly, that you must respect the rights of others. That is the value system that is now driving you, driving your teacher, driving your future employer, driving your future business partner, driving the police officer, driving the judge, driving the jury. You're all looking at how are we respecting each other's right. We may not agree with each other's choices, but we're respecting your choices because the choice you're making isn't one where you're going to use force or fraud to infringe on other people's rights. Do you know that most young people right now don't know what value system drives the law in Jamaica? They don't, there's, what is the value system that drives the law? Laws are just made, but they don't have a bearing to judge it against, to say, the law that I have here is because of this. This law is related to this value system. They don't know what the value system is. But the hidden value system that we have in Jamaica is one of violence. We make laws for those in power to get what they want. So the laws are violent driven or force driven. Sir Chase, your turn. I think you might want to come in on this one.
Yes, what you said there rings of pure truth. I'm just looking in the chat here and enjoying the conversation in the chat too. God said beautification that children must get slapped and then butter. And there is this kind of battle between beautification and Deborah Williams. No, what you said rings true. Violence force is used by those in power to get what they want from those without the power. So we see it in our government. For example, we have law enforcement to enforce the law to aid the public. How does the police force come into um, aiding with health, for example? So they need and to keep the distance 6. That's force.
Yeah, you're breaking up. Somebody has a feedback loop happening in their system where you're probably listening on.
Internet.
Are you listening on two devices? If you make sure you only have one device because one is feeding back into
No,
the.
one device. No,
Okay,
one
finish your thought.
device, just one device. All
All right,
right.
go ahead. Mhm.
Uh, it's the same thing with the our children act up and we take the easy out. I have been guilty of when my daughter was younger. Instead of trying to find out what is it that because every action has a motivation cause. You take the easy way out. Talk, and if the child doesn't hear, to slap. Really based on force and control.
Mhm. Um, Did you want to say some?
Lewis,
Oh, go
my
ahead.
question is all the moral. Oh, I was out.
Yeah, before you, so
Right.
Chase, we couldn't hear you for a
I'm
while.
done here.
Hold on. Rashid, did you have a comment on that before I go to this question on the screen here?
Oh no, not at all, not at all.
All right. Um, so what I just said earlier on might have prompted this question. The question is, how is the morality and norms come into play here? Well, what we're talking about is morality and norms. What is the morality of life? There are only two broad categories of morality, really. One, where you respect the rights of others, and the other where you don't respect the rights of others. That's really the two. In every system of governance, you have only two. They might call them different names, but there are only two systems of governance. One, a system that respects the sovereignty of the citizens, and the other is a system that does not respect the sovereignty of the citizens. So the same thing with parent and child, a parenting style that respects the sovereignty of the child, and a parenting style that does not respect the sovereignty of the child. Now, when you're a child, you cannot make all decisions for yourself because you're not yet experienced and educated enough. So you need a parent who will nurture and help you to develop that independence over time by guiding you along, but not by being domineering and overbearing, but by understanding how to nurture you. Now, where will that parents get that from? If they were not educated in a school system that nurtured them in that direction, they cannot pass that on to their children. So, what you're seeing as parenting today is really the byproduct of our education system. And what you see as our education system is really the byproduct of our governance system. So the morality we're suffering from today, the lack of morality or the morality, whatever it is, the norms we see today are all a result of governance, which leads to what kind of education system you have, which leads to what kind of parents you have, which leads to what kind of families you have, which leads to what kind of society you have. So if we don't have a governance model with the right morality, then it's going to impart to our society immorality. And the immorality that has been imparted to us is the immorality of force and fraud as the way to get by in life. And it may be hard to see because it's conflated with moments of nice sounding words or nice sounding ideals, but those nice sounding ideals are not supported by the system itself respecting those ideals. The ideals of to serve, right? To protect and to respect in the police. Instead, what you have in the police is somebody who has power and authority over others, and he may abuse those powers and, for the most part, get away with it. When something goes very, very bad, we build another institution and say this institution is to monitor the police and to see that they do a good job, and we multiply those institutions. But we still don't come to the fundamental, which is your governance model, as not fundamentally said, you are a sovereign entity and nobody, the government, a group, or any other person has the right to violate your sovereignty. And if that is not the principle, the core principle driving our governance, driving our laws, driving our policing, driving our justice system, then you're going to have a confused society, a demoralized society, a conflict ridden society, and less harmony and more violence. Sir Chase.
All right. I would like into the solutions. What I had planned though might take a bit of time. So, with the permission of the audience, I would like to do a part two and not go in depth into what I would have presented. But I'm going to summarize. Now, the UIC solution is a new method of governance. A governance that is not based on force nor fraud, that is not based on violence, whether it is violence or applied threats of harm coming to you or something taken away. So we have presented many times on our governance structure. So I won't go much into that tonight. What I want to present though is the UIC's education plan, especially the first pillar of our education plan. Our education plan, Learning and Advanced Program LEAP, based on 8 pillars, and the first is an Afrocentric curriculum that focuses on real African history, real world history, not the things with them from you, but real so that our students can think critically. And when I say students, I don't just mean children, I mean also adults. We are all students. But it is really about real African history and world history that is not just about figures and such, but about what really happened and how and why. But the real meat of the matter, the real juice, is this curriculum will delve into 3 main domains: understanding self, understanding human behavior, and understanding money. Now, I want to look at understanding self and understanding human behavior. Now, if we understand ourselves and know that we have a need to be appreciated, to be respected, then we understand why it is when somebody so called dis us, we feel that extreme emotion. If our students understand really how we think, or we react to certain stimuli, then they will be better equipped to manage it. If they also understand how human beings behave in groups, then and how we are supposed to behave in groups, not because the authorities told us so, but this is how our bodies are, this is how our minds work, and also this is how society works, then they will be better equipped with tools to respond to situations. So, for example, in the fight, well, it was not a fight based on what the video showed. In the incident where the girl stabbed the other one, and what we're told is that they had an altercation, gossiping and so forth. If those girls were adequately equipped with the tools of how to respond when confronted with aggression, then there would not have been the need to take out a knife and stab the other. No, what I had intended to do was, after I had explained this point, on teaching our children how to understand self, how to understand human behavior, was to present a journal finding on the what really propels the violence in schools. So we need to bring solutions that are not just reactive in nature, or we just think of something like that. It must be something that's studied. Now, what the journals say is that children who don't feel connected, who don't feel appreciated, who don't feel a part of society or a part of anything meaningful, usually retreat into negative ways of expressing themselves. Now, there's this song, Me Alone in a Dark Room. Me have nobody to talk to, just me, myself, and my shadow. This is reality for many young people. Many young people feel alone, surrounded by people, yet alone, nobody to connect to. And they might have many friends on social media, but there is no connection. Uh, now, when a child in school is shunned by others, the child might not be perceived as bright enough, might be perceived as coming from a poor background, or doesn't dress well enough, might have a stutter, might look different from the others. We find that these children are kind of ostracized or mocked or looked down on, but that effect carries up even to the teachers. And so, if students feel that they are not valued, then there must be something that make them feel good about themselves. So me are the baddest person. Me can defend myself, and no matter what nobody think about me, me bad and can mash down a girl and mash down a boy. You see that comes out there. Now I want to go part two next week, Friday, and really go into this. But I just mention it for now. If our educators are equipped to teach not only the academic subject, but also to how to understand why we think the way we think and how to connect to these children on an individual basis, which means reducing class sizes that will have to come into play, then we would be better able to connect with these children and help them connect with each other, give them even in the classroom to fully interact meaningfully with each other, to take away that feeling of aloneness and allow them to understand others, and through understanding others, understand even themselves. In addition to teaching the curriculum, understanding self and understanding human behavior is to give them the opportunity to use the skills. Now, I have said that, and next week, hopefully, we're all here to present the journal findings. But there is this video at TED um, from the professionals. So you'll hear the professionals that will say, give some more background on what I've just introduced. All right, so Douglas, I would have cut my presentation short and you would have presented. So now this time to just run the video. So the video, how good.
I have every reason in the world to tell you that gun reform is the answer to stop school shootings. But if I did that, that wouldn't be the complete truth. But I have every reason to tell you that for all the experiences that I've gone through in my own life. I was only 16 years old the first time that I got robbed at gunpoint. And I know the fear of looking down that barrel, not knowing if that was going to be the end of my life. That was my first of many experiences involving gun violence. My most recent one happened on my job. See, I facilitate an anti-bullying workshop called Challenge Day in schools all over the country. And within just a few months of doing this work, my biggest fear came true. I was in a gym with over 100 innocent 7th grade students. In the middle of my workshop, an adult runs up to me and says the sentence that I never wanted to hear. We have an active shooter situation. My heart started pounding through my chest as I saw the adults run and block the doors. Now, I later found out that the shooting happened in a nearby building, and even though the principal got shot on that day, nobody lost their life. It didn't turn into a school shooting because they stopped the student. However, that fear, that experience, it stuck with me, and it's what inspired me later on to organize the March for Our Lives event in Oakland, California, where thousands of people attended, including Warriors coach Steve Kerr. I eventually met up with the students from Parkland, Florida, to hear about their thoughts on gun reform. Now, to all my Second Amendment people, do not hit stop on this video. All right? I actually need you. I need all of us. Because here's the real point. When I just told you what side of this issue that I'm personally on, some of you like me more and some of you like me less. But when we get caught up in the polarization of this issue and we use it to politically attack one another, we stop seeing each other's humanity. And it prevents us from seeing that we actually both want the same end goal. Nobody wants to see school shootings. We just have different ideas of how we get there. So I think you should keep fighting for what you believe in. I'm definitely going to keep fighting for what I believe in, but let's both be willing to carve out a little bit of space to come together, knowing that we both want the exact same end solution. So I'm going to go over some of the reasons that we hear for school shootings, which is a uniquely American problem. Some of them are easy access to guns, mental health issues, prescription medication, bullying, broken homes, recently had a traumatic incident, loneliness and depression, being a male, experiencing abuse, or an obsession with violence in media. Now, here's the thing. Over 99.99% of people that fall in either of these categories will not go on to commit a school shooting. 99% of gun owners, 99% of people who have mental health issues. However, if we end up combining some or even all of these things like we see in certain cases, the chances of becoming a school shooter are significantly higher. And does it not make sense if we take a young person who experienced abuse growing up, who had adverse childhood experiences, gets bullied at schools, doesn't have a friend, is on prescription medication, has an obsession with violence, is dealing with anxiety, depression, and suicidal thoughts, and gets bullied when they go to school, and then you give that same student access to purchase powerful guns and the knowledge that if they do this, they will receive national media attention and for the first time in their lives feel relevant. This is a recipe for disaster that's just waiting to happen. In a country of 325 million people, in a country that glamorizes violence, it's only a matter of time before this happens again. I am here to state that this is a holistic issue rather than just a single topic solution. And we can't talk about a holistic approach without discussing societal structure, moral priorities, and accessible resources. So what do we do? Well, I believe that all sides can agree to this. It is far better to have emotionally intelligent teenagers than it is to not. Frederick Douglass has this quote that it is easier to build strong children than it is to repair broken men. And in the spirit of that, I believe that empathy and mindfulness training should be required in all schools, period. Because what we're learning is that once schools implement anti-bullying workshops, especially those that focus on empathy, we see an increase of empathy in the school climate. Where there's empathy, there is more connection. When there's more connection, there's less loneliness, and loneliness is the common denominator for all school shooters, including what we saw here in Ocala. When they asked him what was his inspiration, what made him do that shooting, he said, "Because I felt alone." Now, I want to be clear. Implementing this doesn't mean that we will never see a school shooting again, but that's true for all those single topic solutions that we saw earlier. So why am I choosing this one in particular to focus on? For two reasons. One, it's something we can all agree on and implement. Nobody is against this concept. There aren't people on the streets holding up signs saying, "We want our children to be stupid, woo!" Like, nobody's doing that, right? Nobody's gonna protest this. This is something that's good we can all agree on. And another thing is that we can implement this right now. If there's one thing I know about policy and government is it can take a long time for things to happen, right? So we should still do the research, we should keep on doing the evidence, keep fighting for what you believe in. I think we need to improve all those things that I mentioned earlier in order to actually come towards the solution. But let's also realize that we have the power to implement these changes here in our local community because our children cannot wait. It might take years, it might take generations before we see some of these changes. The second thing is, even if we fall short of our goal, we all will still benefit. What I mean by that is, let's say that it doesn't reduce school shootings by the percentage that I personally think it will. Let's say we only reach halfway of our goal. At the very least, we will see a reduction in school bullying, school violence, and teen suicide, and I think that's a worthwhile consolation. Now, we should demand our governments to fund social and emotional learning programs in our school. This is more than just telling children to be kinder to each other. This is about implementing professional, proven programs. It's something that needs to be taught. Because at the end of the day, empathy is a skill. It's something that not only do we need to teach it, but we also need to practice it. And empathy in emotionally charged situations can be really difficult, but those are the situations where it's needed the most. Now, we can all agree that having empathy for victims is easy. Anybody in this room can experience that. But having empathy for those who commit crimes, now that's a lot more challenging, but I think it's actually important in finding the solution. So I started studying this. I heard of stories of people that were able to practice radical forgiveness, empathy, and compassion for other individuals that have committed a crime against them or their family members. And I wanted to know how it was possible. How is it possible to experience empathy for somebody who has hurt you? So I started studying this, I started in books, I started attending workshops, I started helping and facilitate a restorative justice program, San Quentin Prison, and I eventually went on to interview one of the most notorious criminals in American history. Now, people ask me, why? Why should we have empathy for those who cause harm? A couple reasons. First, I personally believe that most criminals were once victims before they became criminals. Victims of a mind that didn't develop in a healthy way, victims of a childhood that they didn't choose, victims of being born in a society that doesn't give them the emotional tools to deal with whatever it is that they're going through. But the second thing that I think is even more important is that if we can have empathy for those who commit crime, then we can understand them more. And if we can understand them, we can reverse engineer what took them to that point in their lives. And then we can use that data to make changes in our society to make sure that this never happens again. Now, I want to be clear, having empathy does not mean justification, and it doesn't even mean forgiveness. It simply means understanding. It doesn't make what they did okay by any means. I think we can all agree that having more empathy and more love and more understanding and more compassion is always better than having less. So right now we're going to do an experiment. This next part might be challenging for some people. I'm going to ask you to try to push through that and get into the place in your heart that can be extremely empathetic. What I'm going to do is I'm going to play some audio clips. And as you listen to each audio clip, ask yourself in silence, what is this young person wanting to feel?
All the kids in school will run in fear and hide.
When I hear that, I think that he wants to feel power.
From the wrath of my power, they will know who I am. You will all see, you will all know who my name is.
What does he want to feel then? Significance.
I am nothing, I am no one. My life is nothing and meaningless.
So clearly he has a low level of self-worth.
I live a lone life, live in seclusion and solitude.
So on a daily basis, in his reality, he feels like he doesn't belong. Like it's him versus the world. Doesn't have one friend.
I had enough of telling me that I'm an idiot and a dumbass.
So now I wonder who gave him these messages. Maybe he heard it at home. Maybe he heard it when he went to school.
My love for you, Angie, will never go away. I hope to see you in the afterlife.
Now, this is a really interesting way to end this video. That right before he's about to commit a horrendous act that he would think of mortality and love, suggesting that underneath all of that darkness, maybe there was a tiny thread of potentiality that just needed to be nurtured. Who knows? But when I hear those audio clips, what I hear is a call for empathy from somebody who is in a lot of pain. 2 minutes after this audio recorded, this individual went on to commit the Parkland school shooting. Here is his picture. Now, I'm showing you a picture of him as a child for a reason. To remind you that no child is born wanting to hurt other people. When this photo was taken, there is no way that he would have known that in just a few years, his life would have taken him down a path to commit this horrendous act. If there was a child like this right now in front of you that was in pain, that needed your love, would you not be there for him? Would you not want to hold him? Would you not hope that he grew up in a society where he had access to mental health resources, where he had support if he needed it? Our job as a society is to figure out what would take somebody from this innocent child to what we just heard. If we can do that, I believe that we can put a stop to school shootings. I currently live just a few minutes away from Columbine High School. Right after the shooting
All right, so we'll cut it here in the interest of time, and we will continue in another in another um, live. Now, you would have seen there that it is a person who's looking for attention, a person who's looking for appreciation, as a person who's looking for meaning, to feel good about himself or herself, who would go out and commit acts like those to really draw attention to themselves. It's the person who's hurting. Now, who else walks around with a gun and swags about me a bad man and people have to fear me? Somebody who does not feel adequate, who wants to feel power and feel like someone of worth. No, if we can address this, then we can address much of the crime and violence that's plaguing our society. Many of our people have no sense of identity, no sense of worth in and of themselves. So they create identities they, that they think will be respected, or if not respected, feared. Because if you're not respected, then what's and you're not loved, what's the next best thing? To be feared, to be famous or infamous. But we will look at that in another life. But you would have seen that school shooter there. What did he say? No, they will feel his wrath. No, they will fear him. No, they will know his name. No, I wonder what the young lady thought when she went to stab that other one. She proved a point and felt good about it because she laughed after. But what was driving that mentality? No, none of this gives any excuse to what these criminals might do. The gunmen, the robbers, it gives no, gives them no excuse, and we're not making any excuses for them. We're not making any excuses for the lady who killed the other young girl there. But what we need to do is understand. If we understand what is going on, then we can better make solutions. Instead of knee jerk reactions, we are acting on understanding. Now, the UIC's model is to create respect, so that respect is automatically the value, respecting someone's right to do with their lives, their liberty, their property as they wish, respecting people's views even when you don't agree. And then through the education system, creating understanding. So not only do we create respect, we create understanding. This person is acting this way because, therefore, if I act this way, if I respond like this will diffuse the situation and enable me to get what I want, which is more in keeping with what is better for me. Now, that's a logical process that can only happen if we are equipped with the tools to think in that way. Now, many times people act in ways that are negative and we assume it has something to do with us. And because it has something to do with us, in our minds, we respond in like fashion. But if we only really understood how people operate, then we would eliminate many of these unpleasant events and these destructive behaviors. But we will present on that, God willing, next Friday. Now, what do we need you to do now? We need you to share this live, and and the, any lives that follow, any lives that you have watched, like, share. This will influence the algorithms. Now, I want everyone to be clear, right? There is active deliberate move to block the UIC on many platforms, right? The media doesn't carry us even when we do write to them, even when we reach out. Traditional media does not carry us unless it is really something bad. Like, in their eyes, it puts us in a bad light. The two political parties have paid the media to do that. And in recent times, we see a little uptick, some little mentions. We hope that carries on and gets even more, but we depend on the people. We depend on you, our viewers, to get our content out there because we're blocked on traditional media and we're blocked also on social media. Facebook and YouTube have been modifying our algorithm, so we need you to share. But then we spoke about this system of control and force. Why is it that UIC is being blocked? UIC must be carrying something that will be a threat to the establishment that causes them to want to use the same old method of force and control to block UIC. So we need you now to break that through physically sharing. Liking will still help the algorithms, though they are trying to hold us down, but sharing the content, both through social media and talking to others about the UIC, will help us to get there. Also, as much as you can, please donate. We need to have 1,000 donors of 25 US and above so that um, we can really go out in the fields as we need. There are some of our candidates who can barely do that on their own, but they need your support. We need your support also with billboards as we do what we can from this end. So, like, share, comment, donate as much as you can, volunteer, and see you next time. Until then, one Jamaica, we must get it. Take care, everyone.